Welcome to this introduction to Vastu. My name is Michael Mastro. This is my most favorite subject I love to speak on. Vastu means building and Shastra means science. It is the science of building, and it comes from an ancient body of knowledge called the Vedas. And one part of the Vedas is called Atharvaveda, which deals with how to improve the quality of your life. And in Atharvaveda, you find many of the things that you're already familiar with: yoga, meditation, pranayama, Dhanurveda, the science of self-defense, and the three sister sciences: Ayurveda, the science of healing; Jyotish, the science of the stars and how they affect us; and Vastu Shastra or Sthapatya Veda, the science of building. Vastu is said to be 7 to 10,000 years old, and we know it's at least 5,500 years old because archaeologists discovered an ancient village or city in the Indus Valley region between India and Pakistan called Mohenjo-daro. And this city is unmistakably designed per Vastu, with the streets running north, south, east, west, with dwellings having cooking areas in the southeast and sleeping areas in the southwest, and bathing areas in the northwest, and open areas in the center. And we'll talk a little bit more about these Vastu way of designing. But this science aims at aligning the physical body to two forces of nature: the positive solar energy that comes from the east and the magnetic energy that comes from the north. And it aims at balancing the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space within the physical body. Now, Ayurveda balance is aiming at balancing the five elements in the body, and Vastu takes that a step further, as well as Jyotish, to balance the five elements in the body of your body, which is your environment. And it does this by reducing the stress in your environment, which enables you to improve your career, your finances, your health, and relationships. And I first became acquainted with Vastu in 1967. I was a young architect, and I met Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the Beatles guru, and he asked me to design some buildings in Rishikesh. And it was there at his feet, as he would describe these buildings coming out of his consciousness, and I would be trying to draw these buildings. He was actually talking about Vastu. He didn't even mention the name at that time, but he was describing the principles of Vastu in terms of orientation, in terms of proportion and placement. And as he was describing these buildings, you got the feeling you were really there, and you could feel your consciousness expand. This spiritual kind of experience would start to happen as he would describe these buildings. So I was designing these meditation structures that are still there in Rishikesh, and some meditation halls that are here in Boone and elsewhere throughout the world. And here are some buildings some homes that we designed right on the Boone campus. That if possible, we can actually get a little tour and go in. And on the right, you see there's this open area in the center of every building. It's called the Brahmasthana, the center of awareness. And they'll have a skylight or a clear story above that allows the celestial energies to come in and circulate throughout the house. And that's why you get this uplifted spiritual feeling when you go in any Vastu structure. Especially this meditation hall for the art of living, which has this beautiful Brahmasthana in the center with the clear story windows. Very much this expansion of consciousness happens. Many of you have had the experience of going into buildings, houses, or offices, and you feel uncomfortable. You don't feel like staying there very long. Vastu is the science that explains why we feel uncomfortable in certain buildings, and it has to do with one or more of the five elements being out of balance. When you design a structure from scratch using the principles of Vastu, all five elements are in perfect balance, in harmony with nature. When I came back to the States from Rishikesh, I was very honored to be on the first team to design the Microsoft building, the first Microsoft building, according to the principles of Vastu, as well as 3 buildings for Boeing. And later, I was involved in a double-blind study with Dr. Kulreet Chowdhury, and we took 30 patients who were not recovering from some very serious illnesses and introduced Vastu. I would go to their homes or their apartment and balance the 5 elements. And then we would just see how they progressed. And it was amazing. It was phenomenal. Their healing progress just took a huge leap. In the back here, we were actually explaining this on Dr. Oz, and in the background you see here a diagram of a floor plan of a house with each of the 5 elements in certain areas: water in the northeast, fire in the southeast, earth in the southwest, and air in the northwest. The center is that space element that we were talking about. So each of the 5 elements is associated with a specific direction, as we were just talking about. And each of those 5 elements is associated with some aspect of your life. So in Vastu, we are looking to see where energy is flowing, and if it gets stuck, how it would affect some aspect of a business or a family. So each area, water in the northeast, has to do with growth in our life, and it affects our finances, spiritual and material growth. And the southeast has to do with energy, and it affects our health. Southwest has to do with the earth element, which has to do with how we support ourselves from our physical structure and how we support our family in terms of our career. And the northwest has to do with the air element. And when the air element is out of balance, then our speech and our thoughts and our actions are not harmonious. So at bottom line, it affects our relationships. The center is associated with the space element. And earth, water, fire, and air come out of the father, mother space element. And so any imbalances in the center can affect every aspect of our life. Now, there are 7 different ways that energy can get stuck and create environmental stress. And Vastu deals with each of these. There are remedies to help whenever any of these energies get stuck in any of these areas that I'm talking about. So the first has to do with alignment. That means, is your house aligned to the earthly grid system, the longitudinal and latitudinal lines? And if it's not, the energy field gets distorted, and this can affect our thinking and our health. Second has to do with the placement of items like toilets and stoves and furnaces and fireplaces within the environment and how it affects things. Third has to do with the shape of the building, which is very, very important. And the fourth has to do with energy that comes in, prosperous, healing energy, and then may leak out or get blocked from coming in at all. The slope of the land has a lot to do with energy flow, and whether you have things that aren't organized, like clutter. This can hold a lot of stress and impact the different aspects of our life depending on where that clutter is within our home or office. Now, the 7th has to do with earth energies. Underground streams, underground channels, pipes, power, sewer, storm, water, and the radiation that comes with those pipes, the fault lines and underground streams. All of this can affect our physiology within our dwelling. So I'm just going to go through a little bit more detail with each of these 7 ways energy can get stuck. So here we have a picture, a Google Earth picture of a cul-de-sac. One house is aligned to the cardinal directions, perpendicular and parallel to your computer, and the other one is at an angle or not parallel to the computer. And so again, we ideally we're trying to in Vastu align our physical body and our structures to that earthly grid system. Now, as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, it carries with it certain types of rays of energy. In the northeast, you have the ultraviolet rays, which are beneficial to your cellular structure. And then as the sun is directly overhead, you have infrared rays. And then as it sets in the west, you have the gamma rays. And these are not beneficial to the cellular structure. Now, the second thing has to do with placement. And I this is just a picture of one of thousands of houses where someone's done a remodel and they're doing very well financially and in their career, and they build a kitchen in the northeast. Northeast is water element, so if you have a stove in the northeast, it's like burning money. And then they also put a toilet in the southwest. That's water reducing earth, so affecting the career. So the placement is very, very important. And what happens when we place things that are not in the proper places? They create an anti-clockwise motion. And so what we do in Vastu is we use a little energy machines to get that anti-clockwise motion to reverse and go in a clockwise motion. Just like when you go to someone who understands the energy flow in your body. They may be a chiropractor or giving you a massage or acupuncture or acupressure. They understand the energy centers in the body, the marma points and the meridians. And they know that if you're feeling tired, some meridian or marma point is blocked. So they create some pressure there with their fingers, or they use an acupuncture needle to get that stuck energy to start moving again. And that's exactly what we do in Vastu. Here's a picture of a house that got remodeled where, the family was in very good health. And after the remodel, they created this extension to the southwest, which created a southeast missing corner, which affects the energy level of the people in the house. And so the husband was a doctor. He had a heart attack, and the wife was feeling very low energy. And so this remodel involved many different things. The some of the energy got blocked from the northeast, the solar and the magnetic energy. Some of the energy was leaking out these windows. And then the slope of the lot actually got changed in the process of the remodel. So all of these things affected the health of the family. So we did some energetic corrections where we separated this new extension of the house from the original rectangle, and we created energy barriers to stop the leaks and buried some things in the ground that changed the energetic slope of the lot. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the shape. So in a rectangle, energy flows very efficiently. All the positive solar and magnetic energy comes in through the northeast and moves around and settles in the southwest. Now, when you have a stream with a bend in the stream, some of the water eddies, stagnates, and pollutes. This is exactly what happens when you have a garage that sticks out or some other part of the house that sticks out, creating missing corners and extensions. Some of that energy flow that's moving towards the southwest gets stuck in an anti-clockwise motion. So what we do is we set up these energy barriers so that these extensions to the house become a separate Vastu energy field. And so we're ending up with a rectangular energy field, no missing corners or extensions. Energy is flowing very efficiently, no energy getting stuck. And we do the same thing with the energy blocks and leaks. We set up the energy barriers so that the energy that's leaking out, the positive solar or magnetic energy that's for financial prosperity and healing, stays in the house and doesn't leak out. And then if it's blocked, there's no windows in the Northeast, we use energy machines to attract that missing or blocked energy. Now, when things are disorganized, we cannot be as efficient and productive. I spent a lot of time at Intel, Oracle, Amazon, helping people be more productive. Some of it has to do with the direction that we face, but also if things aren't organized, then energy gets stuck and it affects our productivity. Now, with earth energies, these, as I was talking before about underground utilities, power, water, sewer, storm, underground streams, fault lines, in the interior wiring and pipes within the house, cell towers in the more modern times, the high voltage power lines and smart meters. There's a lot of electromagnetic radiation that gets builds up, and more and more people are becoming very sensitive to this, and it makes it compromises their immune system. It affects their thinking, and they start to have a lot of stress in the body. So Vastu gives us many tools to improve that or protect us from those electromagnetic frequencies. Here's a diagram of what happens when you have clutter in different parts of the house. So if you're having some financial issues, you might want to look in the Northeast and just make sure the drawers and closets and garages and things are organized in a specific way. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of everything. Just sort things, put them in the proper boxes so that you can find them when you need them. If you're feeling low energy or some health issues, look in the Southeast for anything that needs to be organized, as well as the Southwest for your career and Northwest for your relationships. Now, if you have an attic with a lot of clutter or a basement with a lot of clutter in the center, this can affect every aspect of your life. In terms of the EMFs, I've been involved in several studies where they'll take a look at your blood before you stand in front of a smart meter, and then you see after 2 minutes and even a few seconds standing in front of a smart meter, the blood cells begin to clump, which changes the DNA in your blood and affects many things. So some very basic tips that you can utilize in your home or office, besides reducing your clutter, have to do with supporting each of the 5 elements in each of their directions. So in the Northwest, adding chimes, light blue colors, or accents, sky scenes of pictures, jasmine plants, all of this will support that air element and improve relationships. In the Northeast, if you add moving water like a fountain, yellow accents, jade plants, waterfall of pictures or paintings, all of this can help support that water element and improve the finances. In the Southeast, adding a Himalayan salt lamp and some rose accents, some desert scenes, aloe plants. All of this can support that fire element and improve health. Southwest, you can use peace lily plants, terracotta or earth tone accents, and mountain scenes or paintings to support that earth element and improve the career. So again, what we're doing in Vastu is identifying where the energy is getting stuck and using certain energy machines called yantras, which is a physical representation, a mantra or sound or a frequency or vibration, to get that stuck energy to start moving again. And we do this according to the principles of Einstein. He talked about everything being energy. We know the floor is very solid, but if you put it under a very powerful microscope, it's made of protons, neutrons, atoms, quarks, and God particles. And even the God particles are made of earth, water, fire, air, and space. So if you use one of these little energy machines called the yantra, it's what it is it's matching the frequency of what it would be like for all five elements to be in balance. And this helps to move that stuck energy that's creating stress in your environment. Dr. Hans Jenny did several experiments of sound moving to form. And he used what he called a tonoscope, which is just very simply put, it's a two copper plates with a wire attached in between and some crystals on the upper copper plate. And when he would utter certain sounds, the plates would start to vibrate and the crystals would form certain shapes. One of the most interesting experiments is where he chanted Om, and you would see these triangles start to form what is known as a Shri yantra, and this is the the colored version of that Shri yantra. But here's what the crystals look like on top of the copper plate. This is a very powerful yantra. So the yantras that we use are most of them. We have about 100 different yantras to move the stuck energy, and in the very center there's 9 equal squares containing Sanskrit numbers that add up diagonally, vertically, and horizontally to a certain energy coefficient that is specific to the energy that's stuck that we want to start moving again. Now, there's 3 tips that involve aligning yourself to the forces of nature and improving your productivity and your sleep. So what I want to say is each of us has a body type. We study this in Ayurveda, and there's a predominant body type, and then there's a sub body type. But each area of the home or office is associated again with one of the 5 elements. So if you're Vata or Vata Pitta, and we know that's part of the earth, air element, and the air element is in the northwest part of your house. If you sleep there or spend a lot of time there, this can aggravate that Vata condition. It will actually pacify the Kapha disposition. In the southwest, if you're Vata, sleeping there, or Pitta, this will help ground your energy, give you deeper sleep, but it will aggravate the Kapha disposition. In the southeast, if you are Pitta or Vata, that fire energy is going to aggravate your dosha type, whereas it'll pacify the Kapha type. And likewise in the northeast, which is the water element, it pacifies the Vata Pitta, aggravates the Kapha. Now, been involved in a lot of sleep studies where they'll take maybe 50 patients in a hospital that are recovering from similar surgery, and they'll set it up so 25 of the patients will have their head to the north, pointing to the north, feet pointing to the south. The other 25 will have the head pointing south, feet pointing north. And they set them up with, they're all hooked up to EEG machines to measure their brain waves and also the REM states. So what they find in these studies, after a short period of time, like 3 days, the patients with their heads to the north are having fewer REM cycles and shorter REM cycles. They're not sleeping as deeply. They have more complications recovering from the surgery, whereas the patients to the south have longer and more REM cycles, sleeping more deeply, and no complications recovering from the surgery, sleeping much more deeply. So when you're, the reason this happens is positive magnetic energy comes from the north. Our body is like a magnet, the positive polarity is in your head. So if you're sleeping with your head to the north, it's like bringing two positive ends of magnet together. What happens? They repel, which disturbs the blood flow, circulation, and digestion. And you don't wake up feeling as refreshed. So any direction but north, northwest, or northeast is good, but just avoid those specific directions. The other thing we spend many hours a day doing is working. It could be something creative like painting or cooking or writing or just sitting at a computer. But the direction we face has a lot to do with how productive we are. And again, I spend a lot of time at Intel, Oracle, Amazon, helping people be more productive. And I've been involved in several studies where we'll take 100 kids um, with similar IQs, they divide them into four groups of 25 facing north, east, south, and west, and hook them up to EEG machines to measure the brain waves. And what we find is very interesting. The kids that face north or east will do about 20% better on the test than the kids that face south or west. Kids that face north and east are producing an alpha rhythm, which is a rolling harmonic brainwave, whereas the kids that face south or west are producing beta waves, peaks and valleys. And it's more of a chaotic brainwave. So they don't have the same focus, the same concentration as the kids that face north and east. And another part of this study that's very interesting showed that the kids that face north, the magnetic energy from the north, that supports left brain activity, more of the analytical part of the brain, the math part of the test. Whereas the kids that face east, that supported the right brain creative part of the test. So something you can ask your patients that can help with improve their Vastu lifestyle is, is their residence aligned to the cardinal directions? And you can just tell this from Google Maps without buying a compass. If you put in your map, your address in any map search engine like Google Maps, and the house is not parallel and perpendicular to your computer, then it is not aligned to the earthly grid system or the north, south, east, west, longitudinal and latitudinal lines. And again, Vastu has some very simple remedies for this. Then you want to see what direction they face when they look out their front door. Are they facing north or east? Does the residence have garages that stick out, missing corners or extension? Do they have any furnaces or stoves in the northeast or southwest affecting their career or finances? Do they have any blocks or no windows in the north or the east to accept that positive solar and magnetic energy? Or do they have a lot of windows or doors in the southwest leaking that energy? Do they have a smart meter or router, and how close is that to their bedroom? Where is the clutter in their residence, and how would that be affecting their stress level? And what direction do they sleep, and what area of the residence do they sleep in? And what direction do they face when they're working or meditating or praying or cooking? And do they sleep with their windows open? Very important, just even in cold climates, to have just the window cracked just a little bit, because it. And do they suspect? Have they had any leaks? Is there any suspected mold in their residence, which can affect the immune system in many, many different ways? You can ask them to make a little simple sketch showing the shape and the placement of doors, windows, stove, furnace, fuse box, tank, water tank, and their beds and desks, and to get an idea if it's stresses that are impacting them. But ultimately, many of these corrections need to be addressed by a certified Vastu practitioner. Three things that I've found that affect my patients, my clients, my family, that have to do with spiritual growth and why we're here, have to do with um, reducing the stress in the mind and body through yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, pranayama. And the second 30% has to do with reducing the stress in the environment through Vastu. Third thing has to do with our karma. You know, when we're born, all the planets and stars are set up in a certain way in the sky for us to come here and learn certain lessons and grow and evolve and open our hearts and to be in service to others. So Jyotish puts light on your karma. It is a roadmap to your happiness, to your spiritual growth, to your enlightenment. So it can really help people understand old patterns and overcoming those old patterns that creating stress in our life, like patterns, health patterns, and relationship issues, financial issues, all of these things that keep happening over and over. And it has to do with certain planets, and there are remedies for those planets. So it's really all about reducing stress. And so here's some contact information if you're interested in consultation or referring consultations or Vedic astrology readings, and 3 books that my brilliant wife wrote about Vastu. And thank you for listening. I appreciate it very much. And yeah, we also have the American Institute of Vastu, where you can learn how to become a Vastu certified practitioner and a certified Vedic astrologer as well. Again, thank you for listening.